All right, welcome to our second video for ArcPRO, and in this video we're going to begin our editing skills, and we're going to begin with the point feature editing. First thing we're going to be doing is adding some points, digitizing from a base map, and then we're going to be adding them relative to another feature class, in this case counties, and we're going to be using a snapping tolerance to make sure those points lie exactly on the edge of that. Later on we'll get into moving points around. I'll show you that a little bit at the end of this video. And then deleting points and adding an attribute to the point. So those are kind of things that we're going to be doing in this series. Specifically, what we're going to be doing is the first video is going to be about using OpenStreetMap to add 2 points to the empty layer, which is college points, and we're going to be adding their attributes. Okay, so that's kind of our first thing. What I'm also going to do in that video is we're going to be looking at how to add points relative to the snapping tolerance. And again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we're going to be adding 2 points kind of along the edge. And the point is to make a feature align using snapping tolerance to another feature. And then lastly, we're going to go through deleting a feature point, that is Grove City Hospital, from the hospital's point file. Okay, so a couple of things that we need to point out in terms of the ArcPRO environment as it relates to editing. First of all, this is a time when you want to change how your table of contents or your contents pane looks. Normally, we tend to use the data source or the drawing order view to understand kind of what we're seeing here. But in this case, it's important to also note the list by editing option. And when I'm going to click on that, I want to point out a couple things. Each one of these layers, because it's checked, is editable. And the important thing about ArcPRO, unlike ArcMap, is that all layers are kind of interactively editable. There's no turning on and off editing. Everything is in an editable mode at any time if you're in the edit window. So what I tend to do in this case is I want everything else off in terms of editing so that I don't get into a situation where I'm going to accidentally edit something I don't want to edit. So I'm only going to be editing hospitals and colleges at this point. That doesn't mean the other things aren't visible. You'll notice if I go back to this, all of those are certainly on. So that's the first thing. We tend to want to have that screen available. The next thing in terms of editing in ArcPRO is that we actually have an edit tab rather than an edit toolbar. And so I'm going to click on the edit tab, and I'm going to point out a couple of quick things. First of all, there's the create and modify options, and you're going to actually choose which of those things you're going to do. Since I don't have anything selected, we could delete, but we have to select first for that. All of your tools are kind of laid out in here, and there's a whole slew of tools, far more than we can use in this class. So what I'm going to focus on right now is we're going to be creating 2 college feature classes, as we pointed out earlier. So what I want to do is I'm going to select the create, and what that opens right over here is the create features pane. Now I'm going to lock this in place for right now. And so what we do is when I click on colleges and my create, if I use this arrow here, what it's going to do is tell me, you'll notice, you want to read this, it says enter an attribute for the feature you are about to create. So in other words, in this scenario, you enter the name of the feature first. And so I'm going to say I want to enter Grove City College. Now you'll notice immediately I have a little dot following my cursor around it, so I'm going to go right here and click, and there's my point. Now you'll notice that if I go to do the next one, and for the moment I want to open up for Grove City College its attribute table, and we are going to, in terms of the college here, I'm going to open up its attribute table. And you'll notice that we have the point that I just created, and it says Grove City College. So that's what we've created. Now I'm going to close that. I want to get back to this. And now I'm going to use my Explore option. And again, if I don't turn this on, if I were to click somewhere, I would actually lay another point down. And so now what I want to do is move over to Slippery Rock. And I was going to put a point here, but remember that in the edit mode, okay, I'm going to create colleges, And now what I want to make sure that I do is this is the name, and it keeps the name from the last thing that I entered. Sometimes you want to have that. But in this case, I need to change that, and I'm going to change it to Slippery Rock University. And now I can lay in my point, and now we have Slippery Rock University. Now, the other thing, very important, there is no saving of edits here per se. You certainly can save them. Go here, click Save all edits, and I'm going to say yes. And now you'll notice that I've saved, but I'm still in this active editing mode. I don't end an editing essentially session. It's always available until I choose another tool. So I'm going to go back to click Explore. Now the next thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to add 2 points to the southern boundary down here, but I want to do that within the hospitals layer. So I'm going to turn on hospitals right now. And again, we notice that we're still over here in this. And so what I want to do now is I'm going to go back into my edit mode, and we're going to be using 2 things here. I'm going to be editing hospitals. Okay, so we're going to come over here, and I'm going to close down my features. And now what I want to do is edit, and I'm going to create a feature. And you'll notice that over here, hospitals is now present, and that's what I'm going to choose. Now, what I want to do, and I'm not going to add names to these, but I'm going to create points. But before I create points, notice that I have my snapping options. And I want to make sure that all of them are on. And what I want to do is make sure that my point snaps to this southern border here. And so you'll notice real quick when I move it here that I get that little square around it that means that I'm on the PA county's edge, and it gives me a little highlight there. And so I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to do it again, about down here. Now you'll notice that if I move off of this, and for the moment, I'm going to lay this one in and show you how to move that feature. So now I'm in the create mode, so I lay in another point. Now what I want to do instead now is move that. So now I'm going to do select. That's my selected tool. Okay, I've now selected that one. And now what I want to do is move this, and you'll notice that now I can move it. I've selected the move option. I'm going to drag it down until again it's on the county's edge. Now that it's there, you'll notice that I've moved to that location, and now what I want to do is click Save. Okay, and so now we have the hospital's 2019 point has been moved to here. Okay, so that is moving. Now you'll notice that initially there was a kind of a ghost of the point here. And so what I'm doing is I have moved it, and then when I hit the clear selection, that ghost will disappear. Okay, so now we've moved those two. The last thing that we're going to do in this session is we're going to again go back to our map and to our Explorer. And what I want to do now is you'll notice that we also have a hospital right here, and that's the hospital that I want to delete. And so what I'm going to do in order to delete that, again, I'm going to go back to my edit mode. And in this case, I want to select, and I'm going to select this hospital. And what I want to do with that is delete. So I'm going to click delete, and now I'm going to click save. And so now all of my edits are saved. Now I do want to point out one last thing, and I'm going to, for the moment, I'm going to move something around. You don't need to do this one, but what I want to do is I'm going to select this one, and now I'm going to move it, and we're going to move it up to, say, here. Okay, I'm going to grab it. Oops, let me grab my move tool. There's my selection. We're going to move, and unfortunately, this is kind of in the way, so I'm going to kind of get this out of the way. Move my point a little farther up here. And there's my point, and I'm going to grab it and I'm going to move it up. And again, you'll notice that here's the ghost, and I've moved it, and I'm going to clear my selection. Now it's moved, and now again I'm going to go to save, and I want to point out one last thing. You'll notice that it says show edits. I can click on that and it will show me what I did. I did this map, hospitals, and what I edited, if I kind of hover over it, is a feature class. And so it'll show you what you did. So again, that is moving, deleting, aligning with another feature, and creating. Okay, so that's point editing within the ArcPRO environment.